Okay, back to the various different things in Hilchos Shabbos that we learned. In order to do a malacha which is biblical, it has to be done the normal way of doing it, and it has to be constructive, not destructive. So now we're going to get into some of the details. It has to be done the normal way of doing it, the way the biblical malacha is doing it. So for instance, cutting nails, which is an offshoot of kaitzer or whatever it is basically done normally with a nail clipper or a scissor, a shear, whatever you call them. What do you call them here? Clippers or manicuring scissors. Now what happens if somebody bites the nails with their mouth? Now officially that's not the normal way it's supposed to be done. Or if somebody picks it off with their hands. So because that's not the normal way of doing it, it's only rabbinic. Not only. I mean, practically speaking, you're not allowed to do it. But it's still only rabbinically forbidden. Normally you cut hair with a shaver or with a scissors. What happens if somebody pulls out hair on Shabbos? They pull out 2 hairs, which is the amount of hair. So basically it's rabbinically forbidden. Okay, because you're not allowed to pull out hairs. So normally the normal way of cutting hair is not by pulling out hair, by cutting it with the scissors or whatever. But if you do it in a different way, it's still rabbinically forbidden. Now the other day we mentioned, because we didn't get into the details, that if a right-handed person writes with the left hand, so that's called a shinui. That would be only rabbinically forbidden. But that doesn't apply to everything. Let's say, what happens if somebody's a right-handed person, but they'll flick the switch with the left hand? I mean, that's not called changing the normal, because even a right-handed person will do it with the left hand. I mean, you're talking about something like, again, the example that halacha gives is basically writing. I don't know if there's any other example for this. A right-handed person will not write with the left hand. I mean, again, it's the ambidextrous. But other things a right-handed person will do with the left hand. They'll even eat with their left hand. I mean, I'll give you another example. What happens, God forbid, somebody eats non-kosher, but they'll eat it with the left hand instead of the right hand. I mean, it's still biblically forbidden, even though you did it differently than always. But that's separate than Shabbos. Okay? So again, that's only about when it comes to writing or things like this. Okay, the next thing we said, it has to be constructive, not destructive. Now we said like this, tearing a garment, or tearing paper, we got into discussion about tearing toilet paper, tearing paper, because it's not the normal way of, it's destructive basically. So that is rabbinically forbidden. But if one does something destructive for the sake of doing something positive from it, the Gemara Mishnah gives 2 examples. One is you erase that there's 2 letters written, okay, and you erase take an eraser and erase 2 letters. So then it's only rabbinically forbidden, because you're destroying the writing. You're not doing anything constructive. But what happens though if somebody is erasing in order to write another 2 letters? So then the erasing is part of the constructive aspect. So that erasing itself would be biblically forbidden. Or another example the Gemara gives is Seisa Manas Livnes. There's a malacha called bona, building, okay, and sosa means demolishing. Now normally demolishing something is destructive. You're ruining something. But what happens if somebody is destroying in order to build? It's called sosa amenas livnot. He's doing it to build. So then the destruction is not destruction, it's actually part of the construction. You find this even in language. You go to a construction site and you see bulldozers knocking down a building. Yeah, and you come over to the workers, what are you guys doing? So they say, we're building a building. Right now you're knocking down a building, but the purpose of knocking down the building is to put up a bigger, better building. So therefore in halacha, that destruction would not be called destructive, it would be constructive. So then you would be biblically forbidden. Okay, then we also discussed melacha sheina tzricha legufa. That means you're doing biblical work, but you're not doing it for the same purpose it was done either in the Mishkan or generally speaking. It's not done for that purpose. So yesterday we gave an example that what happens, normally the purpose of carrying something from the house to the street is because now I want it in the street. Okay, that's the purpose of carrying. What happens if somebody carries not because he wants it in the street, because he doesn't want it in the house? If we gave the example yesterday, there's a dead body, God forbid, in the house. Okay? You don't want the body in the house. So what are you doing? You're going to carry out into the street. So that you're carrying, you're doing 100% an act of carrying, but you're not doing it with the same purpose that normal carrying would be. Normal carrying is because I want it there. Now I don't want it there, just don't want it here. So that would be, according to Rabbi Yehuda, to be chayiv, but the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon that is potter, meaning it's still rabbinically forbidden, but it's not biblically forbidden. What?
What if it's something you're planning on bringing back into the house, like keys? You're carrying something that you're not...
No, keys, for instance, not because I don't want it in the house. Right. I'm carrying out the keys because right now I want it in the street. So that's purpose of carrying.
But I'm not taking it to the street. I'm actually planning on bringing it back.
It doesn't matter. But the fact, by the way, it's interesting. If I carry the keys out into the street and stop or put them down, I just carried. Then if I pick it up and bring it back in, I did a second.
But if I never put it down?
If you stopped?
I put it in my pocket.
Okay. So now, we don't want to get into all the laws of carrying now. But let's say I have something in my pocket. Okay? And let's see, there's no Erev, whatever. I walk out of shul, okay? Situation, there's no Erev, so you're not allowed to carry. So I walk out of shul, I have a handkerchief in my pocket. I mean, people don't know what a handkerchief is, but I have keys in my pocket, okay?
A water bottle.
A water bottle in my pocket. Now, I walk outside, so I realized outside that I'm carrying. Now if I stopped, I put it down. So in other words, like this, there's three parts of carrying. No, it's important because it's relevant to Vaad Din we're learning now. If I carry something from a private domain to a public domain, or a public domain to a private domain, is biblically forbidden. Okay? The Gemara learns it out, by the way, and we mentioned this yesterday, that when they were building the Mishkan, they had so much, everybody brought so much money and things, that Moshe Rabbeinu said, Al Yetzi Eid, Al Yetzi Ish, don't bring any more things to the Mishkan. Okay? So now, the Gemara learns out from there, that day was Shabbos. The Gemara learns out, Moshe Rabbeinu said it was on Shabbos. He told them, don't bring anything from your house to the Mishkan. Now the house is a private domain. The Mishkan was where all the Jews gathered. That was the public domain. So the Moshe Rabbeinu was telling the Jews, don't carry from your house, from a private domain to a public domain. From there the Gemara says, logically it would be in reverse also. If I carry from a public domain to a private domain, what would be the difference? Like the Gemara says, what's the difference? You take it out or bring it in. I mean, it's the same thing. Okay? Even though one's an Av, one's a Tilda. But the bottom line is that in that case, if I carry out, put it down. Now, so now there's three parts of carrying. Picking up the object, carrying it out, and putting it down. That's the biblical prohibition of carrying, is picking it up in a private domain, carrying it out to a public domain, and then putting it down. That is the biblical prohibition. Now, picking it up and putting it down doesn't mean only in my hand. If I have something in my pocket, I have keys in my pocket, yeah? I'm standing here in the shul, which is a private domain, and I start walking outside the door into the street, which is a public domain. I picked it up in my pocket. I didn't have to pick it up in my hand. By walking, I uprooted the object from where it was, here, and now I'm walking outside. So when I stop, I now put down the object. So what I basically did was carrying from a private domain to a public domain, which I'm not allowed to do. So therefore, while we're on the topic, what happens in such a scenario? You leave shul, again, no area of situation. You walk out from shul and you realize you have something in your pocket. And then you're walking home in a public domain and you realize, oh my gosh, I have something in my pocket. So halacha says what you're supposed to do is don't stop. Keep moving. Either until you get home, if that's closer, and don't stop, or come back, make a U-turn, come back to shul. So, in other words, when like you ever see the joggers by a red light, they don't stop. They keep jogging. No, they keep moving around. So that's what you have to do halachically, because then what I did was, let's say I carried out from my house, from the shul to my house, through the street, but I never stopped. So basically, I picked it up in a private domain. I put it down in a private domain, even though I walked through a biblical domain. So then the din is, it's only rabbinically forbidden. Because I didn't carry from private to public. Because I had to stop to halachically put it down. So and that's what halacha says, if you realize you're carrying something in your pocket, what you do is keep walking, don't stop at a red light, just keep walking until you get to your destination, or any destination, whatever, and then you put it down when you stop. So then at least you didn't transgress an accidental biblical prohibition, you only transgressed a rabbinic prohibition. So that's what you have to do. So there's three parts to that carrying bit. Okay, so now let's say like this. Another thing, by the way, in the Mishkan, they used to extinguish fires. Why would they extinguish fires in the Mishkan? The Gemara says because they needed coals. For whatever reason, they needed coals for things. Shh. They needed coals for things. Okay? So what they did was, why did they extinguish a fire in the Mishkan? Because they needed a coal. Okay? So based on that, the din is, the Gemara says, what happens if I extinguish a fire not because I want the coals, because somebody's trying to sleep, the candle is in their way, the light is getting in their way, they can't sleep, so I want to extinguish the fire that they should sleep. Now that's a different purpose than extinguishing was done in the Mishkan. Extinguishing was done in the Mishkan because they wanted the coals. So in order to get the coal, you have to extinguish the fire, then you have a coal. But it wasn't for the sake of getting rid of the light. So therefore, again, it would be what's called malacha she'eina tzricha l'gufa. Again, it was not done for the same intent. It was done in the Mishkan. In the Mishkan, they didn't extinguish fires because they didn't want the light on, the fire on. They extinguished it because they wanted the coal. So then if somebody extinguishes a fire because they want somebody to sleep, it will be what's called malacha she'eina tzricha l'gufa. You're doing it 100%. You're extinguishing a fire, but it's a different purpose, a different intent. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, again, it would be biblical. The halachos, it would be only rabbinically forbidden. Another case is,
Separating.
What separating? No, that wouldn't be the same. They give a different answer, like a different example would be capturing an animal is an av malacha. Okay? Now, why did they capture animals? Where did they capture animals in the Mishkan? So the Gemara says they needed the Eres Tchoshim. There was an animal, Tachash, that existed, only a multicolored skinned animal. And they needed it for the Mishkan. So they would capture it because they needed the skin. What happens, therefore, if somebody captures an animal that it shouldn't hurt you? I'm not talking life endangering. You're capturing an animal that it shouldn't hurt you, That's not the same reason they captured in the Mishkan. In the Mishkan, they captured the animal because they needed the animal. Here you're capturing the animal that it shouldn't bite you. So then they get a different purpose. So again, it would be only la halacha, only rabbinically. Again, you can't do it, but it's still only rabbinically forbidden instead of biblically forbidden. Okay, that's it for now.